Brace yourself. Pressure. You're just like everybody else. Pressure. You've only had to run so far, so good, but you will come to a place where the only thing you feel are loaded guns in your face, and you'll have to deal with pressure. Here is the Community Solutions Podcast. Back again, Jason Bradley, Andrew Richter. How you doing, buddy?
Well, I'm doing terrific, but, it's the weekly I have no idea what quote that was.
Wow.
So what the heck was that?
That's Pressure by Billy Joel.
Oh, really? Huh.
Yeah.
I don't, Billy Joel's one of those guys who I know him, and I know he plays the piano, and I probably can't name 3 Billy Joel songs.
I bet you could. If you heard him,
We Didn't
you'd
Start the Fire.
Yeah.
Was that one?
That's like one of his worst, I think.
Oh, I remember that when I was like in junior high.
Yeah, no, it's all right. I'm sure.
Piano Man, is that him?
Yeah, that's
okay.
him. Okay, can you do one more?
I can. You May Be Right.
That's right.
Oh, I could name 3.
Look at that.
Holy cow. Pressure. I need 4.
Well, I gave you that one.
It's kind of like a geometry problem. That was given.
Yeah, well, there you go. That's the only way to do math like that, isn't it?
I don't know, the obtuse angle or whatever.
No, this is good. This is good because now you're going to have, as we talked about last week, you have an additional song to go listen to out on our Spotify playlist, Community Solutions Songs from the Podcast. So that's exciting now.
I'll have to remember to do that this week.
Yeah, why don't you? I mean, this is episode 49. We don't have quite 49 songs out there because we kind of grew into this. But
your opening and closing is something you develop.
Yes.
You don't just have it show one. I
mean, some people are great right out of the gate.
Well, we're great, but I mean the content is always great. But I mean I don't think Walter Cronkite said that's the way it is on his first show.
Probably not.
So I mean, look at Dan Rather. It took him 40 years to come up with Courage. I mean, come on, you don't say it the first one. So
that's true. So. Everybody, you want to hear the songs that we're coming up with every week, you can go out to Spotify. You can go under Jason Bradley as a user, and then it is under my public playlists. Otherwise, we will put it right in at commsolutions.com. There'll be a link to the Spotify playlist, so you can listen to all the songs that we quote at the beginning of every show.
Lots of traffic on that website, by the way.
Absolutely.
Tons of traffic. Every time we put something out there, we jam it up. Let me tell you.
The internet's come down. It's burning a hole in the...
Then I don't know what. It doesn't matter. It's just burning a whole period.
The World Wide Webosphere. It's amazing. So, what all's happening? It's been a whole week.
Well, it's been a whole week, and I'm waiting for pitchers and catchers to report.
Yeah.
Since we allegedly have a football team, I'm not sure where they are or what happened, but I said all along they'd lose. Everybody hated me for it, and I've said before that I curse them because I was born the day after the last time they went to the Super Bowl, and they'll never go. So I don't know why anybody bothers. They can move to Antarctica for all I care. I said before, I don't like how football's been feminized. I don't like that. So, I mean, I had zero confidence, and all I care about is when pitchers and catchers report.
Oh, boy. Well, at least I still have hockey.
Yeah, well, okay, I have them too, but they ain't going to win either. So
well, not the way they're headed. Oh, boy.
So that's the only thing from the sports world. Oh, hey, wait a minute. Did you hear the big news now? The XFL might come back.
Really? I did not hear that.
I heard that on I was watching something before work this morning, and they said the XFL might return.
Wow. Who bought that up?
No, it'd be Vince McMahon and whoever the TV partner is, but WWF is, or WWE, I guess, is, they weren't the corporation they were previously. So now I'm sure they can put their own network if they want to. But
I'm sure they could with all the documentaries, all the
good stuff.
All the good stuff.
All the good stuff's on the network.
Yeah. Well, that too. I mean, I don't know if that would affect pay-per-view rates or if you still do that or how that works.
I think the way it works is if you pay pay the monthly subscription, you don't need to buy the pay-per-views.
Oh.
But if you just want to, get WrestleMania or something, which is coming up here at the end of March, not that I'm watching, if it was 30 years ago, I would be. But I don't think you need to purchase them. I think it's like a $10 a month thing for the network.
Oh.
Like buying like HBO or something
Okay.
like that. Yeah.
Huh.
I think that's how it works.
Interesting. Wow. So that's good stuff. Well, this week, I chose this song for a reason, because we have with us a member of the Crystal City Council, Olga Parsons. It's nearing the end of her first term. She's going to be running for re-election. Re-elections come with pressure. So does coming into being a city council person for the first time, I think, after, but I think that we'll find that she adjusted nicely. And it really wasn't as bad as we let on that it was. Maybe it was worse. I don't know. We'll get to the bottom of that. How are you, Olga?
Good, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, and it's rare. I'll tell you what, it's not happened many times, but I always get the most words in a show. Today, I'm ceding that to our guest, Jay.
That's good.
I will not get the most words in today.
Oh.
It's happened, what, 2 times? It's
something
happened?
like that. Well, a few times. We've had a few guests, so... You were very well behaved.
Yeah, I had the thumbtacks worked real well. I was very very good those days.
Well, welcome. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself first, and acquaint our followers, our listeners with who you are. I mean, we talk a lot about Crystal, so they're aware of a lot of things that happen in Crystal, and we mention people by name from time to time. But I think it's good for them to get to know you, and this is helpful because as people think about running in other cities, maybe they can do a kind of an evaluation of themselves. And do I have what it takes, character-wise, personality-wise, to be able to run for a city council, or am I better suited to do something else? So this is good. This is helpful for anybody in any city, and as Olga kind of elaborates on some of the stuff that they did in Crystal over the past 4 years. So,
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, I've been a resident of Crystal for 12 years and got involved in city government really because I was concerned that there was a lack of transparency and responsiveness and respect towards the residents. So as I got more involved, that became clearly was a problem for our town. So I thought, if I run for city council, I might, my goal and hope was to help bring more transparency and respect and responsiveness to city government. And once we got going, I felt that we've been very productive in the last 4 years and have achieved these goals, these core goals of responsiveness, respect, and transparency. So, I've been able to maintain a personal website where I've posted updates on what the council is doing. I've maintained a social media presence on Facebook and Twitter. We're also on Nextdoor, where residents can just social network specifically in their neighborhoods. And have been responding to phone calls and emails in a timely manner. My commitment was to not let 72 hours go by, so 72 hours or less response time. I understand lots of people have things that come up, so better to respond in a specific time frame and have a goal set. So I feel that has been a success. And
No, hold on. I'm going to jump in here because I'm the star of the show, so I'm going to jump in. Now, you mentioned, first off, you represent Section 2. Correct. I just want to mention that for Crystal residents, that's the northern half of the city, right?
Yes.
Okay, so if you're, what is it, Jay, 44th and North, something like that, 45th? Probably shouldn't say that, but yeah. So wards 3 and 4 in Crystal, by the way. One of the things I noticed on work sessions is the new constituent update or something, because it was something new when the 2014 the election you got elected in put in there. Can you explain what is that exactly? New, is that what you're talking about? That somebody brought up something and you kind of share it with the council at a work session. What is the new update thing?
Yes, it is a tracking system to track constituent issues. So if a constituent calls and says they have a problem with an issue,
whatever. Somebody didn't mow their lawn,
exactly,
whatever it is.
Or there are loose dogs running in the street or some other problem, we can write it down and put it in a system and keep coming back to it until it is resolved. And when it is resolved, it will still stay in the system as a resolved issue, so we can look back and keep track of what issues we have resolved, what kind of help we've shown to the residents. So that was not in place before. That is something that we created at the beginning of my term, and it's been very helpful to make sure nothing gets lost in the shuffle and in the bureaucracy. So residents' issues are up front and they come first. So,
well, you mentioned getting back within 72 hours. I imagine if you don't get back quickly, that just exacerbates the. I always said this when I ran, which was before you. I always said that I was amazed at the disconnect between residents and the council. I mean, it was astronomical. I can't put it into words how disconnected people felt and how powerless they felt to make change. And I mean, if a resident can come in and they can actually see, hey, look, my issue's being discussed at this work session. Oh, there's an audio tape where I can actually hear my representatives talking instead of the way it was not that long ago, which was, well, whatever, we'll get to it when we feel like it. We got bigger fish to fry, as the former mayor would often say. Yeah. I mean, it is a night and day change. It's amazing the littlest things, the simplest things, like hitting a record button during a public meeting, what that can do to go back and listen to the debate, which before you never heard. I mean, Jay, you and I talked about it. You never heard it.
Right. And it was pretty out there in the community that things were not going well from a communication standpoint before you were elected. Correct, Olga?
Correct.
And maybe you can talk a little bit just about, I know you mentioned some ways that has helped, but...
And the communication is a big piece. The disconnect was definitely very much felt. It was obvious how disconnected government was from the residents, and that is something we committed ourselves to bridging that gap through clear, timely communication that is in plain language. Also, oftentimes residents would receive letters in legal language that you have to be a lawyer to understand. So we initiated a plain language approach to communication. So, and also, yes, making sure that the residents know that their issues are being discussed, that we do take them seriously, and we approach it from more of a customer service position. So the City Council, we're there to serve the community and provide excellent customer care. Residents pay taxes through their property through the property taxes, and we are here to serve them. So we want to provide that value.
So let me ask you this. So what's it? I have to ask this because, when I ran and lost and then got on the planning commission, I remember I sat up on that chair, boy, and it felt right. It felt like I belonged there. What's it like to sit up there? I mean, what's it? How is it? Let me ask the question like this: when you ran, did you have one perception of what it would be like, and then when you got there, now the work began? I'm just kind of curious because I remember the first time I heard residents come and talk at the planning commission, trying to persuade me to vote one way or the other, but yeah, that's right. This is what I signed up for, wasn't it? What's that like? I mean, some votes you're going to make somebody upset or disappointed or whatever. I mean, what's it been like to be up there?
When I ran, I really was not aware of how government ultimately works. I thought I would get in there and we would get a lot of things done quickly. It is a very slow process. Government works very, very slowly, and that was a criticism that I had in the past. Now I see that is actually a good thing. We need due process and thoughtful, slow consideration to all the issues. We need to make sure all the residents are heard, all the sides are considered, and that can be viewed as being slow, just slow to take action and, not efficient. However, it is for the sake of transparency and the sake of due process. And that's very important to protect that. I honor that. I own that. I think that's a good thing. And I was not aware of that when I ran. So that was a big wake-up call. And yes, also, we can't please everyone. Ultimately, a vote is going to happen. You're going to vote one way or the other, and there is a side that will be unhappy. And to accept their criticism and accept their negative feedback is something I have to be able to take. And
you should see our email. You might feel better.
And respect that. And respect that. People don't have to agree with me. And in turn, I can respectfully agree to disagree and not call them names or run them down or belittle their experience and their perspective. And that's very important.
Yeah, okay. Well, and I agree, and you still represent the people you disagree with. Sometimes people lose sight of that too. Well, let's talk a little bit about some of the things that have changed or happened over time. I know things in the city have changed financially a lot. I hesitate to sit here and say the old council, but I think the old way of doing things, and we've touched on this in previous shows, but I want to get your take here. The old way of, we had the street reconstructions that are now done. Everybody's still paying for them, of course.
I'm still paying for them.
I know Jason's neighborhood was the second to last or the last.
The last.
Yeah. So that was a 20-year thing that was decided a long, long time ago. You came in at the very tail end of that. So and now we have the mill and overlay process that goes over those roads again. These are all city streets throughout Crystal, not the county roads or anything like that. And I know we had the other big financial pieces. We had a public works building that we paid up front for and did not borrow to pay for later. What has been the impact of that? Where is the council going with big projects in the future? What are we saving up for? What's next? How do we plan on paying for those things and becoming what some have called a debt-free city, to get there at some point?
Right. So when I started, we had the street reconstruction projects, and they were paid for exclusively through special assessments, and that was entirely out of the resident's pocket. So either pay, at that time was about $2,000 up front. Now it's $8,000. It's a very high price tag. Entirely out of your pocket, or put it on your tax roll and pay it off with a little bit of a percentage. That was a huge burden on the residents. Over and over again, I heard how it's frustrating to not see that some of those projects coming, especially for the new residents who just moved in, to know that they're going to have a huge bill slapped on them that would clean out their savings accounts. It was just very a big burden. So now that we are done with this street reconstruction, we are not going to be using special assessments again. Hopefully, we will not have to reconstruct the streets for 30, 40, 50 years. Even longer. Mill and overlays are included in what residents have paid, so we're not charging anybody for mill and overlays. There is a negative perception out there right now. It's not correct that we're double taxing people. We assess them, and now we're going to tax them. We're not doing that. Your mill and overlay is included in that. So we're moving away from special assessments. We're moving away from bonding for projects. Bonding, the cost of debt service is just astronomical, and it's a huge waste of money, of taxpayer money. So we're getting away from that, and we have been Moody continues giving us high ratings because of our low debt load. So we are very healthy we're a very healthy city financially because of our low debt load. So going further forward in the years to come, we're going to be saving up for projects, using grants or community partnerships to pay for things. Our next big project is improving our parks and really investing in maintenance of our parks. I've heard over and over again from residents that our parks are really in a disarray and are shabby and are not pleasant to go to. So we want to invest in parks. So we've created a 20-year plan it's a flexible plan. It's not a rigid, set in stone prescription that we will be, ramming through. It is just a way for us to know how much it costs to maintain our parks and how much it will cost to improve them. And as we get funding in, we'll be able to proceed with those plans.
I can second, when I ran, I remember one of the questions I got when parks ever came up, it was like, well, we've got 3, 4, 5 really nice parks, and like you said, everything else looks kind of shabby, and then I always brought up, we have so many. We do have a lot, I think, for a city your size. I guess I can't say our anymore. Crystal's size, but nobody wants to eliminate the park by their house. Like, no, keep mine. You can develop something else. The park plan itself. Can you just share a couple of the big components of it? I mean, a 20-year plan with flexible, meaning we've laid something out, but we can take it any direction. Are there a few things that are sort of we all kind of know are coming that we can share here?
Yes. Before the parks plan, we really had no idea how much it cost to actually maintain the parks. So repair broken playground equipment, benches, replace basketball nets. We did not know how much that actually cost. It was a very irresponsible approach to this major infrastructure that we have. So the plan revealed that how much it costs to maintain the parks and how much it costs to improve the parks. So at least we can now put in the right amount of money to keep things as they are and to keep things looking okay. So we have that, and that is very important, so things do not just devolve and degrade further. So that is our commitment right now. Next, we will be investing in Becker Park and in Welcome Park. We have some major overlapping projects going on with Becker Park, a water infiltration project that we have grant money for that will alleviate flooding in some of the neighborhoods around, like Broadway neighborhood and North Lyons neighborhood. So the park will be entirely torn up and infiltration tanks will be put in, and then we will have a blank canvas, and we can then build something up. So we'll create an inclusive playground for so kids with disabilities can participate, create a more simple and pleasant community gathering space, put a bathroom in that can be used. Lots of little kids really need to go, and there's nowhere to go, so that's a problem. So that's exciting.
Big kids need to go too.
Right now, Becker Park has been kind of a secluded place that doesn't feel safe because there's lack of visibility. The playground is in a really weird position. It's not an inviting park, and people don't use it, so it's an empty space, and it's a waste, and it's not a safe place either. So that's going to change, and we're going to have a lot more traffic there for people who are shopping in our shopping district. It's just going to be a great asset to Crystal. So, and the next is Welcome Park. Welcome Park is problematic because it has a road running right through it, and it divides the park in half, and it's just a very unnatural configuration. So we're going to be working on that.
We need a walking bridge, right? Is that
a walking bridge? No, the street is just going to be gone, so there's no bridge. So those are...
No, if I understand it right, that vote, didn't that take place recently?
It did. It was in January, and it was there were residents. We worked with two groups: park users who were very much in favor of shutting down the street, and people who were concerned that traffic would be diverted down their street. So they were not necessarily park users, but people who were concerned with traffic flow. They lived in the area, and they were concerned with the traffic flow. So we're working to mitigate that for them, and we're just moving forward with the plan.
Yeah, I know that I have campaigned over there, and residents always expressed that was a cut through from Broadway to Douglas, that there was a lot of traffic, say, from like where Steve-O's is, and I think there's an O'Reilly's there, and people would use that to cut through to Douglas Drive. I know firsthand about the concerns with that. But I mean, I would be in favor of closing that road too. I know how many times I ran across that road. So it is goofy when you look at it, that there's one field on each side, and or there's 2 softball fields, and there's a basketball court. I don't even remember, but it is a goofy looking park. I'm curious who's Mr. Welcome? Who's Mr. Welcome that put that together? Blame Mr. Welcome.
I think it's just the avenue that it's named after.
All right. Well,
overall, I think we're mainly are committed to long-term planning. Long-term planning will allow us to use our money wisely and know what's coming up. We can really be efficient, and it's something that hasn't been done before, and I'm very excited about that.
And I agree with you on Broadway Park. I played at that park as a kid, too. That park is always underwater. It's in like a little cavity.
Yeah.
I don't know how else to describe it, but I always remember going down to it. It was great in the winter because it made good ice. But that field of that park always... where the playground is always seem to be lakes in it.
Okay.
Yeah, that project's 2019, so entire Becker Park will be torn down, and infiltration tanks should alleviate a lot of those flooding issues.
Cool.
Now, I find this interesting because we've talked for a long time about our complaints with like the comprehensive plan that the Met Council forces and how they really are pushing for more parks, more park space, more green space, more open space. And this is different because with a comp plan, it oftentimes locks you into doing something, and this is more of a working plan. And we've always said that long-range planning is a good thing, but we can't be locked into it because things change over time.
Right, and this is more of a menu item plan. It's a living document, and it's going to be based entirely on resident feedback going forward, as it was based on resident feedback in its creation. So we will have a lot of resident feedback going forward. These neighborhood parks, Crystal has... everyone who lives in Crystal is within a 10-minute walk of a park, and that is considered very cutting edge and progressive right now. It's considered a sign of a very healthy and active community when a resident can leave their door and walk 10 minutes and be in a park. So we're in a very good position with that. So improving these parks is going to be, it will involve a lot of resident feedback going forward.
And can I ask, concerning the comp plan, and I know that we're in this year, it has to be submitted, the changes, the updates to the Met Council. Have you felt like there's any pushing from the Met Council at all to increase the amount of parks or green space that Crystal has? I know that we've added some biking trails and things like that recently. Well, in the past few years, it's been more like inter-city than it's been like intra-city, but...
I haven't heard of any pushing for more green space. Like I said, we literally have so many parks. Our community is very, very, surrounded by beautiful green spaces, and they're easily accessible. We have an exciting project in Mack Park, which is the nature area next to the airport that's getting updated right now with Three Rivers Parks. They're, investing money into that, and it's going to be an entirely updated, beautiful nature area. So we just are in a good position with that. And with the comp plan, it is surprisingly non-binding. So we can, we don't have to follow it to a T, and our staff really know when to push back and when to say, this isn't going to work for Crystal. This isn't something that we are interested in. So that is a liberty that we have. So
that is good. I know there are a lot of other cities, like Hutchinson. Their comp plan says, we have a lot of parks. We need more parks. It is. Well,
and I can tell you, too, that I was part of, when I was on the Planning Commission, I was part of when John Sutter was the city planner. He's got a different job now, but when they put out the housing forecasts that were so ridiculous, he was one of the people who went on behalf of cities in the West Metro or whatever to go, because the Met Council is trying to turn those into mandates.
Right.
They've been lobbying to do that, and the legislature has had none of it, but a different legislature might.
Yeah.
So there's definitely been push. They have tried to push those things. Legally, they can't set quotas.
Right.
But they can force a city to put something there, even if the city doesn't end up going for it. It's still there as and Crystal's an exception. Most cities use the comp plan as a Bible, not as a tool like we've talked about. So there's that element of it as well.
Well, and looking at the comp plan, I mean, how has it been? I know that the Met Council's projections are always wrong. They're always projecting growth for Crystal. We've lost people. But looking at like lot sizes and like redevelopment, I know we've slated certain areas for redevelopment in the comp plan in the past. How has that been as far as what has been kind of requested versus what are you looking to do when it comes to more high density housing, especially with the blue line going through and all of that?
Well, we're a developed city, so we have we don't have a lot of. We have some spaces that can be developed. The market oftentimes is the thing that drives these developments. So we don't have specific way to control that on the city council or on, any of the city staff. So whoever is interested in, say, purchasing a property from a private, owner, they can buy that and then they can develop it into whatever they want to, as long as they comply with state laws. So we can't, stop a high density development coming in. However, we are easing our restrictions. We're allowing more liberty for property owners in Crystal, for residents, say, if they want to build onto their house or build a tiny home in their backyard, that is actually allowed now. It was not before. So you can build onto your garage and create an apartment. These things are called accessory dwelling units. They're very helpful and useful to people who are taking care of their aged parents or who just want to have a multi-generational home. So people can do that now. We're expanding property rights and liberties for residents.
Kind of like watching Growing Pains. Remember Kirk Cameron's character moved out to the garage?
Yeah.
So that must be what it's like. That city must have allowed
mother-in-law apartment, I think they call it. Yeah. So this is, I don't know if it's really a thing. I guess it's kind of a thing called accessory dwelling units. So that's passed now, and people can do that.
Yes, we have a resident who's working on that right now on her property. So, and again, as the private market dictates, we just let it go. The free market oftentimes takes care of development for us. We're just really trying to invest in the public realm, so improving our parks and improving our streetscapes. There's we have beautification projects going on where residents volunteer to plant flowers, to clean up the streets. We have a new flag and a new city logo, and so that's all improvements to the public realm. And then the private market can then see that we're creating a healthier atmosphere for businesses to really thrive.
And I have to say, I have volunteered to clean up the streets.
Yeah.
Crystal Lions. I've participated in that many times.
That's good. I actually once just handed out flyers to my neighbors and said, hey, we're going to clean the streets on this Saturday. Let's meet at the local park when we're all done and have a picnic lunch. And
Perfect.
Then it stormed out. But it's a good idea. I mean, you can do that whether it's part of a group like the Lions or whether you're just getting together with your neighbors. And there's so much ownership that we can have in our city as residents, and waiting for the government to do something really isn't the answer.
No, we're really encouraging residents to take ownership of their neighborhoods, of their parks, and that's a good thing to do. We have a thriving community and that are committed to investing in our city, just as we are on the government side.
Yeah, and I don't know if there's much that you can tell us about, like some of the. We have you mentioned a thriving shopping center, and I know there's a nasty rumor going around that Pizza Ranch is coming to the Crystal Shopping Center over where Old Country Buffet used to be.
That's not a nasty rumor.
Is that for sure?
That's a for sure rumor, and it's
I'm
wonderful.
throwing a party.
Oh yes, okay. So it is a good thing.
Make you walk home.
When that place opens, I'm like first in line. I'll tell you that.
They're going to have an arcade, like a throwback arcade with a giant Pac-Man, and it's one of a kind actually in Twin Cities. So we're excited about that.
Wow. Anything else that you know of?
Gosh, our shopping center has, I think, 98% occupancy, which is one of the highest rates of occupancy in the Twin Cities, including, Maple Grove and St. Louis Park areas, some of the more posh areas. So we're very healthy financially, as far as the business climate. We're just looking for,
Boy, has that changed. Remember when
more good things.
Remember when the area by the Crystal Shopping, where Old Country
across
Buffet used to be,
Road, and
that had Buffalo Wild Wings and Len's, or the I Place, the post office, and down in the valley. That was it. The rest of the place was empty.
Yeah, that's right.
That was not that long
Hollywood
ago.
Video moved out.
Yeah, that was maybe like 2010 or 11. It was. I would call it. I can't think of the word, but when it was. Come on, Jay, help me. What do you call blighted? I would have called that blighted at that point. And I know in the state of Minnesota, to the government, that's still in the eye of the beholder, according to state law, which stinks because there should be some standard that you could use to come in and redevelop something. But so that's a night and day change from where we were.
They've really done a lot to beautify it and to improve it. It's lovely, that part of the shopping center, that strip.
Cool. Now let's back up a second. Some of the other things that have changed. We've had Jason and I talked about this. Some great looking guy sitting here served on this. You had the City Code Task Force. We also have had the Community Outreach Task Force, things that have been new since you got there or after you got there. What if you could share just a little bit about each? We've covered the city code one. I'm curious to get it from a council's point of view. And then if you can explain the Community Outreach Task Force, who they are, what they're doing. That's a permanent thing now, I think, now in our city code. Is that right?
Task forces are not permanent like commissions. Okay. It can be, when it's done with its task, it can be retired. However, this is a very timely and needed group of people, and their work is very important. So I don't see them going away anytime soon.
Okay, so it's a task force that's staying.
Right, okay. Right. They just voted on some bylaws, and they're getting comfortable. I think task forces can actually become commissions eventually. So depending on if they so desire. So the Community Outreach Task Force was created specifically to recruit Crystal residents to participate and volunteer, and not just volunteer for the city of Crystal, but find opportunities in the community, like in church groups or other civic groups in Crystal, and to see what their needs are. So it's more of a networking community. And they have a volunteer database. They've created a form that's very specific. So when you fill it out, you can really just mark what you're interested in and what kind of opportunities you're looking for. So, and their other focus is really to bring the community together and, beautify the city and create a friendly atmosphere.
Interesting. So it's kind of going whatever direction they want to take it, or is it
create more resident involvement? Okay. So encourage more residents to come forward and volunteer and participate in the city. So it's one of the things I wanted to see happen when I ran, is more people just feeling like they can come and participate in their city government and feel safe doing that and feel like they're valued. So create more opportunities for residents.
Now we've got the no, I didn't go last year. We got the Crystal Ball coming up, right?
Right, second annual.
Okay, so what is that exactly? It's going to be at March something or other. Doesn't matter. You can Google it. But March 20-something. I don't know. Right. I thought I saw it there.
And the citizen connection, the task force is run by Elizabeth Dahl. She's the other council member. And so the Crystal Ball is also a project that she's taken on and has done an amazing job with. So it's really just a formal, or more of a, I suppose, yes, formal party for adults to get together and listen to great music. The band is the R Factor. They're very they're famous and they have a huge following in the Twin Cities and I think the Midwest. So they provide the music, and there is a catered dinner and dancing. So it's for adults, and you dress up either in formal wear or dress to impress. And also during last year, we unveiled the new Crystal flag at the Crystal Ball, and there is now an award attached to this event, Neighbors Recognizing Neighbors. So Crystal has an amazing community of people that watch out for each other and help each other out. And we now encourage residents to nominate their neighbors who have done, helpful, kind things for them or for the community, so they get this award.
So does every neighborhood have a neighbor champion or something, or is it?
No, it's just across the city. Neighbors Recognizing Neighbors. You can nominate anyone who lives in the city of Crystal for remarkable.
I can. I live in the city of Crystal.
Yeah, a remarkable act of kindness or service to the neighborhood or to a specific.
So it's kind of like going to prom or something. I never went to prom.
Yes, it kind of is like that.
No. I went like 3 times. It was, I don't know why. No.
You were providing the dessert or something. That's what you were doing.
I was never the king of the prom. I was more the joker.
Okay, well that's cool. So how about the city code thing? Because you guys are still working on that, and are going to be working on that for a while because it was such a big task. But you were instrumental on the council in putting it together, and you guys have, I was on it for about a year, and before I moved, and we made a lot of recommendations, and it was a lot of work. But how did that idea come about, and what have you seen on it from the council point of view?
Right. So when I ran, it was one of my biggest issues is the city code in Crystal. It was convoluted, outdated, impossible to access and understand. So I thought it was part of the transparency bit that needed to be changed. So when I was elected, the council decided to create this group out of people who live in Crystal residents, to go through and overhaul the entire code. So what it was like. I can't imagine. It's a daunting task, and I don't think any city in our area has gone through something like this. So it was remarkable, and you guys held professional legal help from our city attorney. We are very happy with the results. You went through the entire code, and now it is our turn on the council to look through your recommendations and discuss them and make the changes. So we're slowly working our way through. It's going to take a while, but
well, like you said, we made recommendations. Ultimately, you guys make the call.
You guys made excellent recommendations.
Oh, good.
Very pertinent and appropriate.
It was a great group of people that we put together. I made new friends. I now have 10 before I had 6.
Wow.
So it was great. It was a lot of work, but I'll tell you what, those discussions are discussions I only dreamed of having beforehand. And I have to say this too. From our city manager and our attorney, from Ann and Troy, had never heard of a city doing this. Ever.
Correct.
I always said this. There was a first city that, the first city to build a roundabout is out there somewhere. Now, I'm going to parachute in and tell them what I think of that. But, there was a first city to put in a state aid road, or a first city to declare some tree an endangered species. City of Crystal is the first one to do a city code task force.
That's
true. Hopefully that's something that happens in a whole lot of other cities, because I know that every city code pretty much says the same thing for the most part, and probably hasn't been looked at since the 50s.
Right. Have you heard from any other cities that are possibly looking at?
No, but I think not officially, but through the grapevine, people are interested in this process and are interested in looking through their code as well. It's just incredible how much outdated, unnecessary regulations that we have that are impossible to enforce and are not even right to enforce. So it's important to clean that up, make it easily accessible, easy to understand. If you have a question about law in Crystal, you can just look it up immediately and understand what what you're reading and know what it means, and it's great for quality of life in Crystal.
That is great. And I would say that there's another difference. Other cities that have had task forces, not like this, obviously, like we've said, this is the first of its kind that we know of, but other cities have had task forces, like our friends in Big Lake that have had a comprehensive plan task force, which was run by the city planner, which was run by the consultants that they brought in, which was run by other city staff. This was run by the residents. You had people available. You had the city attorney available. You had other staff members as needed to be able to ask questions, but they didn't guide the conversation. They didn't try to reach a desired outcome. They didn't have a false negative choice set up ahead of time. It was really just a free-form discussion.
Yeah, I can confirm that Troy, he was there largely just to say, answer legal questions. Because there's state law, there's things like that you have to, that does limit cities in some respects somewhere. And Anne largely just was taking notes and answering questions if we asked her, but it was weird. All these people deferred to me in the meetings. It was great. And that's something that when I came back to see the council in December, it was one of the things I wanted to let residents know that, look, this happened organically. No one told us what to do or how to do it or how much time to take or what to look at first or anything like that. It was unique in that respect. And you're right. A lot of task forces are steered in a certain direction. I can tell you firsthand, anybody who says it is lying through their teeth.
I'm happy to hear that. I'm happy to hear that there was freedom to discuss these issues and
very much
come up with your own conclusion.
Absolutely. So, that is unique in and of itself.
I think so. Hey, how about something unique in and of itself? Well, actually, it's not unique in and of itself. But we recently have had an issue with train quiet zones. Has that been passed yet? Or I know that has been talked about for a while. But if you could, Olga, just tell us, what is the issue with trains and horns, and why did the council take this up?
Right. I represent the area that is most affected by the Canadian Pacific crossings at Douglas
Used to be
and
in my
Broadway.
backyard.
Right. And when I was campaigning, over and over, people asked me, what can you do about these horns? Train traffic has increased. We have a lot more trains. They're frequent and longer, and it's become a real disturbance to the quality of life and even property values in Crystal. So in years past and other councils, I have personally reached out to find out, what can you do? We had train horn ordinances in the city code saying that trains can't sound horns, and that is absolutely completely useless because train horns are regulated by federal laws. So we are entirely powerless to, put it in our code. So we had to go through the federal process of applying for a quiet zone, having the train companies themselves investigate the crossings and analyze the crossings and what we have to do to comply with their rules so that their trains don't sound horns. And we did go through that process. I think it took 3 years from the initial application to the completion of the quiet zone.
Talk about things moving slowly.
Wow.
It was very challenging, and now the trains are quiet. The zone is in effect.
So is that 24 hours a day?
24 hours a day, unless there is something on the tracks obstructing the train's path. So, a car on the tracks, an animal on the tracks. So they do have to sound horns to give a warning for, the tracks to be cleared. I think right now there's a little bit of a learning process or learning curve for the train conductors, because occasionally we do hear the horns still,
Especially if you're by the New Hope border or something.
Yes, that's the BNSF tracks right next to the New Hope Ice Arena, and I live there too, and those guys are not bound by the quiet zone. That's their own crossing, and they're going to continue.
Yeah.
So hopefully that traffic will not increase. It could. The BNSF trains could be more frequent.
Well, what about BNSF also owns the line that goes north and south along 81, and when the light rail, hopefully, I'm still holding out hope that we kill that. But in the event that it does go through there, they're going to be ding, ding, dinging like about 20 hours a day as they come through there, and that's going to cause a problem as well, because I mean there's neighborhoods right across the road from there, and
every 7 minutes.
Yeah,
they've done a lot of work to mitigate the noises of the light rail itself. So in residents that live in that area feel like it's been adequately addressed with the noise walls, and there's a neighborhood that's doing a site screening so they can't see the trains. So that, yes, that is a concern. My biggest concern is just the freight traffic, because it's going to be along an active freight rail for the BNSF, and that could increase. And you have a lot of pedestrian traffic around the light rail station. People are getting on and off the train, crossing the street. 81 is a very busy road. That intersection at Bass Lake Road and 81 is very dangerous. People can't cross it. It's
busiest
scary.
In the city.
Busy. It's a nightmare. I've heard it's a complete nightmare to cross it. I've crossed it before just to give it a test with a bicycle and my kids, and it's unnerving.
I've almost been hit.
Yeah, and so you'll have light rail, increased pedestrian traffic, and the freight trains and the car traffic. So it's a kind of a bad combination, and that's what's most concerning to me.
Yeah. And let me just say, kind of related to traffic in the city, one of my favorite things that I think has gone untalked about is the signs that have gone up, left turn allowed on flashing yellow. Thank you.
Yes. Flashing yellow arrows. Yeah. Thanks to our incredibly wonderful Public Works Director, Mark Ray, who's made that a priority to get that going.
That's great. Are we planning to do that with more intersections, or?
We hope to. Some intersections are more expensive to do than others because of the technical design of the lights. So we've been able to get some funding from Hennepin County and split the costs. So we're doing the cheapest ones first, the ones that are less complicated.
I was just going to ask, because if it's on a county road in a city, how does that break down?
We split the cost. Yes.
So, but does Hennepin County cool with
flashing yellows? Yes, they are.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if that was something they liked or didn't like. The first one I remember seeing was over by New Hope Bowl.
Okay.
Because I remember going to that Holiday. There's a Holiday gas station.
Yeah, over there.
And then I remember seeing, like, what is that flashing yellow thing? And this is a while ago.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what is that? I was like, well, I'm just going to go. Heck with it. I think some jerk was honking at me behind me, but I had never seen it before. I didn't know what the hell it was. But now you see them. They're becoming much more common, like you said.
Yeah.
And, not having to sit there and stop traffic one way, and, of all the things to sit there and wait for, that light that then it's green for 5 seconds, and then it's
right.
One car can go. Brutal. Olga, can I ask one more thing? We a couple years ago we eliminated, and Jason, I always forget this, but the point of sale, right? Point of sale,
yes.
Point of sale
homes.
inspections.
That was one of the things you guys took up too. I know it's been a couple of years now, but what prompted that? What is that? First of all, we've tried to explain it before, but I always feel like I talk too much when I try to explain it and don't break it down simply. But what is that? What was that cost? Where did that money go? I mean, what was the reason we had that? What was the reason we eliminated that?
Right. So when we bought our house in Crystal, when anyone buys a house, they hire an inspector from a third party. It was about $300 for us at that time. And the inspector would go through and comb the house and see if there are any issues with anything. So in Crystal, the city also had an inspection. So when you were selling your house and you lived in Crystal, your house would be inspected, and the city would say, well, you have to improve a bunch of things, and they may not even be important to the buyers. So the city would impose these kind of arbitrary rules, like you have to repaint this because it could be, it just looks shabby, so repaint it, or your appliances are needing to be attached to the wall, or some issues that were just not pertinent. So that was a challenge for many sellers in Crystal.
So let me get this straight. They walked through, and before you could sell your house, you had to get something fixed before you could put it on the market.
Right. Before you, I think before you could put it on a market or before the sale would be final. So yes, you had to comply with city's requests for improvement of your house, and they were oftentimes very arbitrary and not in any way,
So a buyer couldn't buy something as is.
Right.
Even after a buyer's inspection.
Yeah,
even after their own independent inspection.
Yeah, because most banks won't give a loan until they have
an independent third-party inspection. Yeah, so this was on top of the independent third-party inspection, and it presented a big burden for, say, retired residents in Crystal who were selling their home and wanted to, move out and
somebody who's already got a home they want to buy and they're being held
and
up.
they didn't have the money to make the improvements that the city dictated. So we heard from many residents to please get rid of this regulation, and we did. And since then, I've heard several residents just reaching out and saying thank you, because it's so much easier to sell a home if you live in Crystal, and therefore it's easier to buy a home if you're moving into Crystal. I think we've made the market freer and more natural.
Wow, that's good.
And you still have your third-party inspector anyway, so people are not losing out on safety or quality control, or you still have someone who has your back.
Wow. So did we miss anything over the last 4 years that you want to touch on that...
I think overall, I came in hoping to, my goal was to help make government more transparent, more respectful and responsive, be more connected to the residents, and make them feel valued and provide good customer service. I think there is always room for improvement. We're all humans. This is run by humans. There's a large possibility of human error and making mistakes and failing. So we can always improve. I can always improve. So as I go forward, I hope to improve these things. And if I do get another 4 years on the city council, I hope to improve and become better and create an even better place for Crystal residents to live.
All right, so where do we find you on the web, on social media, on DoorNext or whatever you call it? I'm not really tweetering, if you're on Twittering or whatever we call that. Instagram. What else?
Do Instagram.
What else do we have?
Tweet. Right.
Pandora. What else we got?
Oh my goodness.
I'm just spewing out BS. Where can we find you on the web?
I have a little blog. It's olgaparsons.com. It's spelled just as it sounds. And I try to post regular updates on what's going on in the city of Crystal. I'm working on my winter update right now. And I'm also on Facebook and a little bit of Twitter and Nextdoor too. It's hard. I don't want to go in and overwhelm people with city news, because oftentimes people generally want to go and read it for themselves. They don't want people constantly posting on social media. I do update my Facebook page regularly, and you can contact me through Facebook as well.
That's good. Well, we'll definitely link to the blog. Are your social media accounts linked to your blog?
Yes, they're all on the menu.
Perfect. So we'll do that, and then that will make sure that people have access to all those wonderful things. So, Andrew, you have any other things that...
I lay it all out on the table. There's never anything left at the end of the day.
I don't want to cut you off early. That's all I'm saying.
No, I'm good. Just thank Olga for stopping in, and good luck in the future, and hope to check in with you again soon, and let us know more great things that are happening. And maybe I'll even make one more Crystal City Council appearance. I'll think of an excuse to come back one more
Please
time.
do.
Yeah.
We'll see. Maybe I'll attend a work session or something.
Yeah. And I don't know, you may or may not have this up yet, but anybody who wants to get a yard sign once you start putting those out, anyone that wants to contribute to your campaign, how do they do that?
Certainly, my website will have all that information on.
Good.
At the appropriate time.
Good. We want to make sure that people can reach you in those ways as needed, because I know that's huge. So there you go.
Thank you, guys.
Absolutely. Anytime you have an issue that you want to get out there, just let us know. So
certainly.
Cool. Thanks for stopping in.
Yeah, absolutely. So there it is. Twin Cities. There it is, Minnesota, greater Minnesota. A success story from a city that was sharply divided, that wasn't able to get together. The left and right hands weren't talking to each other. Maybe the two left hands weren't talking to each other or whatever.
To our listeners around the world.
Yes.
Okay? I mean, literally around the world, the universe, the galaxy.
Yes.
A success story in Olga, going on, wanting to do certain things, getting them done. Folks, I don't want to say fight City Hall. You can change City Hall. It can be done.
Yeah.
And that's where we come into play, right, Jay?
That's it.
We help you change it. We give you the keys to the door, but you got to go out and turn it.
Mm-hmm. That's right. We're more than happy to come out. Yes, Olga. You.
I just was going to say, can I say one more thing?
Yeah.
I do want to emphasize, if I haven't already, and I don't think I have, that this really was a team effort. We have a very cohesive council that agrees. So I want to give them credit, because the amount of work that we've been able to do is because we have a very go-get-it attitude on the council, and they really put the needs of Crystal residents first, above their partisan ideas and above personal preferences. So I think we're very lucky in Crystal in that. So I do want to emphasize their absolute work on this.
Good. I would agree completely.
Yeah, absolutely. And, and that's a good point. A lot of councils do agree, and we've talked about that before, but it's because they work things out in the work sessions when nobody's listening, and it is very partisan.
And here's the thing. I'd say some things, too. I've seen this council disagree on things. Mm-hmm. It has never gotten in the way of the big picture.
It was never handled the way it was in the past.
Well, that's true. But, I mean, I think that people who even think along the same lines aren't going to agree 100% of the time.
Right.
But it can't get in the way of the bigger picture of where a city's going. Mm-hmm. It's the petty BS that we used to see on this council, the personal factionalism. I don't know what the right word is.
Yeah, no, that's right.
It was very much there, and it is just a breath of fresh air now, this council is. In my book, but then again, my book's pretty thin, not a lot of pages in it.
Well, and I think that's a huge difference to note, that when you have a council that agrees, but a lot of its work is done in darkness, versus you have a council that agrees and it's all done out in the wide open, and there's communication with the community. I mean, they agree because they want to serve the community, and this is what the community wants, so they go out and find a way to do it. That's totally different. So I think that Crystal has put together a method to be able to create a more livable city. I mean, we've talked about livable cities a little bit.
As long as you don't say the S word.
Sustainability.
Ah, Doug, yeah. I'm gonna call up Mr. Webster, and have him remove that from his dictionary.
Good luck with that.
I'm going to try anyway. Yeah. I'll get a petition of one, an army of one, to go remove sustainable from the English dictionary.
Okay. All right. Well, there you've heard our case. I mean, you have the story of a city that was sharply divided, and it has come together under a new set of leadership that put the city's interests first, that made communication a priority, that didn't try to hide things, didn't try to sell a community, actually let the community lead the discussion, which I think is unheard of. And whether that's in a community city code task force, or whether that is in the development of park master plans, or whether that is in the community saying, hey, we would like to have the sound from train horns reduced. There are a number of things that was started by a movement of the community that now have become a reality. So I think that's amazing, and I think the kudos need to go out to the current city council in Crystal, and I believe that they're going to lead the way in not only the metro and not only in Minnesota, but as we start seeing this branch out, because we all know they copy each other. Once the smell of success gets out, I think that it's going to nationwide, it's going to take shape, that we're going to see a lot of these ideas getting out. So with that, I mean, wherever you live here in this great big world, you can take these ideas that we've talked about and you can go press your city council to do those kinds of things. And if they won't do it, then replace them. I mean, that is what we did here, and it's working out nicely. You know, we made a case, and the old leadership has not been able to live up to what the new leadership has accomplished. So that's good. If you see things in your community that you don't like, that are bothering you, ideas that you have, you want to run for something, you want some training around something, you want us to come speak, do a keynote, why don't you email us at commsolutionsmn@gmail.com. That's commsolutionsmn@gmail.com. We're out there all over. Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, you name it.
See, I was right.
Yeah, and I'm sure you could make up a whole bunch of a whole bevy of other places where we're not. But
yeah,
we're actually on iTunes. That works.
Oh, we are. Okay.
Yeah. No, if you want to listen to this podcast, you can just go on your smartphone and go to the iTunes store, the Google Play Store, Spotify, or out to podbabble.com, and you can listen to us there.
Yeah, I got these things. They're called apps.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's just a bunch of them, and we're on some of them.
Yeah.
That's what I know.
Yeah. Places we're not are Musically, Tinder,
GarageBand, and what else do I have? Flash Seats.
Yeah. You won't find us on your Delta Points app, anything like that. But all you got to do is go out onto the web and look up Community Solutions Minnesota. You will find us. So with that, get a hold of us. Now it's your turn. You know, you've got to go do all this. We make you look good. That's all it is. You go do the work. We just kind of put it out there, and you do the work, and you look like a hero in your community, because it's your neighbors, your friends, your family who'll be looking up to you and thanking you for the wonderful job that you did to get rid of the junk that is weighing down your city, your county, your school district. So with that, Minnesota, we love you. Now it's your turn to get to work.